have made it my mission to have people around me that I'm chasing. It was a real thing. It was a real authentic thing. We weren't opening up an Italian restaurant. We were opening up a New York City meatball place that had never been done before. And so I like to start my day every single day by pouring a rock solid foundation.
Michael, welcome to the Jedburgh Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So this is like day 2 Sandlot Jacks, but it's like redux of the whole day because Jessie's here. So flew in midday today, came straight to the event, all right, had her activation on the obstacle course, which was awesome, then went in and gave an absolutely amazing fit talk about resiliency. And when we were in there, I started getting all the texts from the team that it's raining. Okay. Well, what they failed to mention is that it was a torrential downpour, okay, that has like flooded absolutely everything, and there is like no one left. It looks like everybody just packed their stuff up. The team did a great job of breaking everything down, and I, for sure, did not expect in any way to see you tonight at all.
Dude, I am a man of my word. I'm going to commit, and but I honestly think like this is kind of perfect.
It's beautiful. There's not a cloud in the sky now. Everybody
the
ran
sun,
ahead.
the light on you guys. I mean, it's wonderful.
And the
it's
audio
quiet.
is going to be the best.
Oh, perfect
Yeah.
audio.
Well, I absolutely appreciate you coming back. And I said it to you when you showed up. I said, a man of his word, someone who does what they say they're going to do. And that means a lot to me because in special operations, there's a song, The Ballad of the Green Berets. And in the song, The Ballad of the Green Berets, which we all live by, and even now, years after I've been out, The Ballad of the Green Berets come on, and I get a tear in my eye, right? And when you don your Green Beret after the Special Forces qualification course, they don't tell you that they're going to play it. And they do, and without fail, there's not a dry eye. And here's all these guys, now I don my Green Beret, I'm a badass warrior, and they're all crying. Right? But there's a line in that says, men who do what they say they're going to do. So I appreciate that very much.
Appreciate you.
So
Yeah, thank you.
And I got my co-host back.
We're
Awesome.
here. We made it.
I love it.
We just did 8 successful episodes down at Wadapalooza together, and somehow she's agreed to join me again. So I
made
appreciate
it back.
that.
So much fun.
That's so good. I think it's interesting. The do what you say you're gonna do. I opened a business in 2015, and I had just come off of selling a company, and I launched a new business. I'm in the restaurant. I was in the restaurant world. Worked in restaurants my whole life, and I started this company called Seamores. It's a restaurant, sustainable seafood business, and I wanted to do it without partners because I had a really tough experience with a former partner, and I was like, man, I just gotta see if I got what it takes to do it alone, right? Where I could just kind of hire great people around me, and I've always had a bunch of mentors in my life. It's not always, but I mean, we could probably get into my story, but I have made it my mission to have people around me that I'm chasing. I always like to chase. I feel like chasing is something that we should all have. And there was a guy named Jay Wainwright who early on when I opened up my first business was just like kind of there for me. He was older than me, and he was always just like, hey, ask me anything, And he was one of the first guys I told about Seamores that I was going to do a second restaurant concept. Anyway, he showed up to the opening of the restaurant, and the next day he wrote me an email, and he was running a company called Le Pen Quotidien, which has got like 1,500 restaurants.
Oh yeah,
huge company. Yeah, so he was running that business, and he built it from like 250 restaurants to 1,200. And he wrote me an email the next day, and he said, you really did what you said you were going to do. I want to leave Le Pen Quotidien and join you and grow Seamores with you. And I was like, oh my God. Like that was like the first time that I had really felt like I was a person who said he does what he says he's going to do. And it really was like glaringly made clear to me. I ended up telling Jay I couldn't take him on as a partner because I knew that he would have to be my boss, and I didn't want that. But he ended up coming on as my partner a year later, and we grew Seamores together for a while. But he really taught me about that, and that's so. I feel like that is so important today, because if I don't say it out, I can think whatever I want. I can, I don't have to necessarily act on my thoughts. But if I say something out loud, I'm gonna fucking do it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that's the commitment that I have. If I say it out loud, I'm gonna do it. I said I'm gonna compete in the CrossFit Games at 45. I'm gonna do it.
Nice.
Like I'm gonna do it.
Are you really?
I'm gonna do it.
Hell yeah.
100%. Like
Do you have to think really hard before you say something out loud to make sure you don't commit to something?
I do. I
That's a
play around
key
with it
part
for a
of
while.
it.
Like the CrossFit Games thing was tough,
Yeah.
but I also said I was going to be a pro bodybuilder, and I did. You know,
Nice.
so like like the CrossFit. Like I decided to start doing CrossFit about 8 months ago, and I immediately was like, oh my God, where have I been? Like where have I been? What in the hell is wrong with me? Like I did all these other things, and then I walked into CrossFit, and I was like, I've been training alone for all these years. like I just like PR'd every lift with a group of people standing behind me being like, go dude. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. So I was like, that's it. I'm not going to try to compete. Actually, that's a lie. I spoke to Ben Bergeron, and he was like, dude, you should not even think about competing until you're at the bottom of your next age group class. He was like, you're just going to get smoked in everything you do. Be the young of the old guys.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, that sounds like a good plan. So that's the goal.
Well, I would say that having now been to Wadapalooza and seen what we have seen firsthand, there are some impressive folks.
It is intense.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Absolutely crazy. And then we had the opportunity, because we interviewed Don Fall.
Mm-hmm.
And Jessie was great and had so many good questions about the process and how do you become an instructor and what's the training like, that he then offered to send us to the level 1 trainer course.
Oh, that's cool.
So we did that last
We got our
month.
certificates.
That's awesome. That's
Went out
so
to San
cool.
Diego. I flew out to San Diego, and Jessie came down from LA, and we did the course.
You're going to laugh at this. So after my fit talk today, I walked back into the green room, and there's a guy sitting on the couch. He's wearing a CrossFit shirt. And like me, I'm an idiot. Like I didn't do enough research before I came here. And so I'm talking to this guy, and I was like, oh man, that was awesome. And he looked a little stressed out. He was like sitting in front of his computer. I was like, oh man, just go out there and crush it. I was like, oh, you do CrossFit? He's like, yeah, I love CrossFit. I was like, oh, me too. I just started doing CrossFit. I was like, I started doing CrossFit like 8 months ago. It's like the best thing ever. And he's like, yeah, and we were just like stuck talking about life. And then I walk out, and I turn around, and I look at the poster, and it's like Don Fall, the CEO of CrossFit. And I'm like,
So
oh
awesome.
my God. I was like, I was just talking to this dude about how awesome CrossFit is, so he must have felt good about that. But he was so humble, and he was so kind, and the fact that he wasn't like, yeah, dude, I'm the CEO.
9.5 out of 10 people
Oh.
would have said to you, I'm the CEO.
Oh
of
yes,
CrossFit.
yeah.
Just to make themselves feel good.
By the way,
moment.
that guy is awesome, and I listened to his talk, and I was like, he is awesome. He's awesome.
Well, we've got him tomorrow morning.
Oh, yeah.
So 7 a.m.
Yes.
tomorrow.
We're working
You
out
should
with
bring
it.
that
We're
up,
working
because that
out.
is so fun.
Yeah,
I mean,
we will now.
That's so funny.
We will.
It's
And
so
then we're
funny.
gonna do a follow up. We're gonna talk about the course and what we did, and then I think we have to put him back in the ice bath.
I mean, if you want to.
They're right over there. That was the challenge we had for him at the end too, is we convinced him to hop in the ice bath with us. So I'm thinking we got to go 2 for 2 on
I love those things.
this. Let's talk about you for a little bit, because we talk about Renaissance men, right? We talk about people who've done so many different things. You've done a lot in many different industries, right? It's entrepreneurism, starting businesses, as an athlete, as a trainer, as a restaurateur, right? And this is a tough business, and you're building and running restaurants in New York, and being in New York myself, you see so many things come and go, and there's so many trends, and to be sustainable as you have over the years is tremendously an incredible feat that you've had. Talk about food, the industry, and what drew you to that in the first place.
Well, I mean, I think it goes way back for me. My first job was in a restaurant when I was 12 years old, and I had a pretty rough and tumble childhood at home. It was really rough relationship with my dad, and I was looking to get out of the house in any possible way, shape, or form. I had been sleeping at all my friends' houses. I'd always wanted to sleep over my friend's house. I just wanted out of the house. It was a small apartment that we lived in Manhattan. My mother, my sister, my dad, and I, and I just wanted out. I wanted out. So I was able to get a job in a restaurant when I was really young. And
Can you still do that?
Oh,
Work
no.
at 12?
No way.
No.
Absolutely
We're
not.
trying to put my daughter to work at 13. And
No.
you can't do it.
No.
Like I'm willing to pay a fine for this.
Yeah, it was like I basically got the job at the end of right before I went into high school, and this basically the summer like kind of going into high school, and I fell in love with not only being, I mean, I was out of my house at night, which was like something that was really awesome, and it wasn't like being out of the house and in trouble, because I did a lot of that too. It was being out of the house and working, and then being in the environment where I felt like I was definitely the youngest, but I really like quickly learned that my passion for people was very, very strong. My passion for connecting with people is ultimately something that I've kind of always had. I'm driven to connect with and engage with and create environments for people to thrive in, and being in a restaurant like made that possible in every sense of the opportunity. So I worked as a delivery boy first, and then ultimately they gave me a job as a prep cook, and I spent time in the kitchen, and then about a year after that they threw me out on the floor and I was a busboy, and I really just it was like really a place for me to feel freedom. I felt freedom in the world of restaurants, and then ultimately I ended up working in every position you can work in the restaurant world, all through high school. I did a year of college, realized that I was definitely not in my right mind at that time in my life, so I kind of just dropped out of college and continued working in restaurants. When I was 23 years old, I made a big decision to change my life, and I knew I needed to get sober. Recovery is now a big part of my life, but then it was a do or die question, right? I was like definitely headed down a dark path, and I had overdosed and made the call.
On what?
On heroin. And even saying that today is kind of crazy for me, like those words coming out of my mouth. But I think it's really powerful to have a story where that was my life. I was smoking crack, using heroin, drinking everything and anything in my, I basically had chalked it up as over, right? Like that was it.
At 23.
At 23.
Hasn't even started.
Yeah. Yeah, and some people honestly will say, "Oh, you're young, and I'm like, no, like I was on a death march. Like I really didn't care. And I got really lucky. It's easy to live that lifestyle though, and I want to make this clear. In the world of restaurants, it's an epidemic, The alcohol and drug abuse is like rampant in the world of restaurants. It's rampant everywhere right now. Like there is a real drug problem in our country, which I'm really trying to drive awareness to through my business, Creatures of Habit. But there is I needed to make a decision. So I made a decision and I got sober, and these guys introduced fitness and nutrition into my life. And that's when I really took food and beverage seriously. And I went to culinary school, and I said, I'm going to really dive into this food and beverage thing, not only the hospitality thing, because I had the hospitality, I had the people thing. I think that's what kind of kept me alive, because I really was like, I really did have this ability to connect with people. So they didn't just like draw a line through my name. And then everything changed, and when I graduated culinary school, I knew that I wanted to open up a business, and I began drawing the business plan for that. And it took me about a year, and I ultimately grabbed my best friend from childhood who was working with me in the Candle Cafe, and I was 12 and he was 13. Funny, they're definitely having like minors on the payroll there, but it was awesome. And we opened up a restaurant. I was 28 in 2010, and Daniel was 29 or 30, called the Meatball Shop.
With so much experience already.
Well, the crazy thing is that like I had been working in restaurants at that point, 15 years.
Yeah.
And I read a really great book before we opened up the restaurant. We both read it together. It's called The E-Myth Revisited. It's this guy Michael Gerber, and it basically talks about this idea that like you could be an awesome plumber. That doesn't mean you're going to be an awesome business owner that opens up a plumbing company, you know? And so he and I, Daniel, both like agree, we were someone that we looked up to said, you guys got to read this book and you got to do it to the T. And we were like, all right, I'm going to do it. But yeah, I mean, we learned a lot about what it meant to be business partners very, very quickly. It's hard. It's hard, you know, because when we opened up the Meatball Shop, it was insane. I mean, it was totally nuts. We had no idea what was coming down the pipe. I mean, we didn't. You know, there was like 250 people online day one, and that line did not stop.
Oh my god!
And like we were cooking meatballs on Jay Leno, Jimmy Fallon, Chelsea Handler, Good Morning America, the Today Show. Within like 8 months of being in business, we had done all this show. Like press was crazy, and it was totally insane. And
what made it so successful?
I think there's a story that people like, you know, I just want to precursor that question. I do believe that human beings love stories. I think that like
True.
We love stories and we love telling stories, or some of us love telling stories, but all of us love hearing a great story. We just do. We're gluttons for storytelling, right? Like for thousands of years, you know, humans have been sitting around the fire telling stories. And I think Daniel and I's story is a good one. We're childhood best friends. We grew up in New York City. Our mothers introduced us because they were both secretaries. My mother was a dentist. His mother was a psychopharmacologist. His mother went to the dentist that my mother was a secretary at. My mother went to the psychopharmacologist that she was a secretary at. And they introduced us. And then we started working in restaurants together as young kids. And when we were 16, we were like, we're going to open up a restaurant together. And so we got this place in Lower East Side. And we didn't hire contractors. We literally we took over an old restaurant. We put paper up on the walls. We brought in our own tools, ripped the place down, built it back up in 2.5 months, and opened up the doors.
Did you have experience doing that kind of thing? Or
Hell no.
How did you learn to build?
So this is a great question. Daniel, my partner at the Meatball Shop, his father was in construction.
Oh, great.
So Daniel grew up. But he also didn't know what the hell he was doing. But he
kind of
pretended like he did. So he was telling me what to do. I was like, whatever, man. You know, just like sledgehammer and shit. I mean, I remember the guy that we bought the restaurant from it's ridiculous, but he had all of the tables cemented into the ground. So the guy, he poured the cement over the tables so the tables would move. So I remember it had to have been at least 10 days and it was thick steel tables. Like it was like, you know, 1/4 to 1/2 inch thick steel, like square stock tables. Yeah. I was on the floor of this restaurant for days with a grinder. Just, and, you know, because there was like 17, 18. I mean, it was crazy. So we had somebody had suggested that we get a publicist. I had no idea what a publicist was at that point. Really, I didn't. But they had suggested we get a publicist. We were introduced to this guy, Phil Baltz, and Phil happened to have walked into the restaurant while I was on my hands and knees sanding the floor, and Daniel was in the back peeling the 3-inch thick grease that had been splashed up on the wall from like the Chinese it was terrible. It was a Chinese restaurant that we had taken over, and there was literally on the wall there was like a 3-inch thick layer of oil that just went the whole length of the place. So he was cracking that off. I'm sanding the floor. And he goes, can I talk to Phil walked in and he goes, can I talk to the owners? I'm covered in like sawdust. And I'm like, you're looking at him. And we sat down and he was like, this is it. You guys are opening up a meatball place? And we were like, yep, that's what we're doing. He's like, just meatballs? And we were like, and sides. And that was it. He created, he got our story. He understood what we were doing. We're both New York City guys. We both worked in restaurants in New York City our whole lives. Like, it was a real thing. It was a real authentic thing. We weren't opening up an Italian restaurant. We were opening up a New York City meatball place that had never been done before. And people love meatballs.
What drew him in that day? Did he just walk by and be like, these guys look fascinating?
Oh, no. we were introduced to him, and he said, I'll swing by, on Thursday between 4 and 8 or whatever. Uh-huh. And he, we were like, okay, great, and he just showed up. And so it was like perfect timing because he really did get a glimpse of like what we were doing, which was like literally walking in blindly head first, not knowing what the hell we were doing, but knew that there was a lot of passion there because we had both worked in some great restaurants and we both had spent, our whole entire lives as technicians. And he said, I think you guys got a real shot, and he, I mean, there's no shot that we would have had what we had without him. Yeah. That's for sure.
So he got you on all the shows where you were able to tell your story, which is an awesome story.
Yeah. Yep. And also like the fact that like Daniel, when I was going through all that stuff, Daniel was like my one friend who really did just like stick by my side, and he, even though it was like I kept him at arm's length because I was definitely not hanging out with guys as good as him at that time, he always checked in on me, always like, so it's a good story.
I mean, that means so much when you're at a low place, knowing that there's at least one person who's with you, who's going to be there for you.
For sure.
So, we got to surround ourselves with good people. And so we talk about the Meatball Shop, which, I would say was probably not the healthiest options on the menu. And I say that because I told you before we started, we were talking earlier today, that I really wanted to have the conversation around wellness and around nutrition. Because that's something that, as you've built these restaurants, they each have their own style and stuff. But nutrition has been a big part of your life, what you do. It's a huge part of Jessie's life. And every time I'm around her, I'm like, oh God, don't eat that. She's gonna judge me.
I won't, but
she won't. No, I know she won't. But then I watch what she's eating. I'm like, that's disgusting. I would never eat
it's just very green. There's a lot of green.
There's no flavor in that stuff.
Not a green. You'd be surprised though. Healthy food is flavorful.
Spices
you can do it.
Healthy,
Spices just change the game.
Actually, I probably need some tips on that because you're right. I don't put flavor in my food because I have no idea how. Coconut oil and garlic powder.
Garlic powder can go a long way.
It does. It does. But that is my only seasoning on like everything.
So I mean, there's there's a bunch of companies that really do a good job on the seasoning front, like Noble Made.
I don't know about this.
Oh, they're great. They have a bunch of.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Pen.
They have like a bunch of. The new Primal, I think, has some great ones. Noble Made, for sure, I know, makes some great spices, all different kinds of spices.
Gluten and dairy free.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then I also use like really healthy sauce too. Like I'll use True Made Kitchen, or True Made Kitchen. They make amazing sauces. All plants and a little bit of like they sweeten with carrots and beets. Like that's the only sugar that is in the products, and they're awesome sauces.
Amazing.
Yeah, you'd love them.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, so I just like the way the Meatball Shop came to be was I was working at this Italian restaurant for years, and there was a dish on the menu called the rigatoni ragu.
That sounds amazing.
It's amazing.
Carb
for
up,
sure.
I'm down.
Yeah, so the dish called rigatoni ragu. Big bowl of rigatoni pasta with meatballs and sausage and the best tomato sauce you've ever had in your life, and a shit ton of Parmesan cheese.
It's a bold statement, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm 100% Italian, and
I'm telling you,
challenged my grandmother on that.
Listen, I was at war with every Italian grandmother opening the Meatball Shop. Trust me. So anyway, once I decided to make a big change in my life, nutrition really became massive for me. I started to really pay attention to everything I put into my body because for so many years, I didn't pay any attention to what I put into my body. Anyway, late night for family meal, 1 or 2 days a week, I would order the rigatoni ragu, sans the rigatoni, sans the cheese, and I would have a bowl of meatballs and sausage with a side of broccoli and a side of spinach.
That sounds really good.
I
love that.
And that's the Meatball Shop right there. That's the Meatball Shop. So I was doing that for years, and because I had worked at this restaurant for 8.5 years before I opened up Meatball Shop, and Daniel came back to New York, and we were trying to figure out what kind of restaurant to do. And then one day we were walking north on 2nd Avenue, and I was like, dude, let's just open up a meatball joint. Like, we can make meatballs out of chicken, pork, beef, lamb, anything, fish, vegetables. We can make anything out of, we can make a meatball out of anything. Anything. And we love sides. Let's make a bunch of fucking sides. and just do meatballs and sides. And like you can get your meatballs on a sandwich, you can get your meatballs on pasta, you can get your meatballs on broccoli, you can get your meatballs on risotto, you can get your meatballs on polenta, white
spinach?
Beans, spinach,
I
all
love
of it.
it.
So you can get your meatballs on anything, or you can just do a bowl of meatballs with one of our sauces, or Bear, and then a bunch of sides, which is the way I do it. And then we ultimately made something called Everything But the Kitchen Sink, which was a bunch of different veggie sides and meatballs and sauce. So ultimately, it is the healthiest version of a meatball restaurant. There's not that many meatball restaurants, but you can make it totally healthy, or you can go there and walk out looking like, that trailer if you wanted to, right? You can have like the beef balls with Parmesan cream sauce over mashed potatoes and a side of, polenta, and roll out of there like a goddamn meatball if you want to. But you can also have gluten-free chicken meatballs with pesto sauce, a side of broccoli, a side of spinach, and a beet salad.
I'm so excited to hear that. I don't know if you saw how much I just lit up.
I did. I saw that.
I can get what I'm excited about, something super healthy, and go with friends and they can get whatever.
100%. And the coolest thing about it
is
that you can customize the whole entire experience. So you get to choose what kind of meat you want, what kind of sauce you want, what kind of sides you want, like the whole bit.
What if I'm super annoying and say, can I have only 1 tablespoon of sauce?
Oh yeah, no, they'll give you a little ramekin of sauce. They won't put the sauce on the balls for you.
That makes more sense.
You put the sauce on the balls. You put the sauce on the balls. But yeah, so that was the idea. It came out of this place of me being like the pain in the ass customer that would go to a restaurant and be like, I don't want that. Can I get that separate from that? And I said, I'm gonna make it a choose your own adventure. So literally the menus, the menus are laminated and you check off what you want.
I love it so much.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed that I've been in New York like 5 or 6 years and haven't been there.
Well, that's a shame.
So now that I know,
been
you're
there.
down the street from me now.
We're gonna fill you full of meatballs, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna meet you there. We're gonna have a follow up.
Is there bread in the meatballs? Is that normal?
In the chicken balls? No. In the chicken balls, there's almond flour.
Ooh.
But so the chicken balls are gluten free. All the other meatballs do have bread.
Okay.
But we
I'm
want
alright with chicken.
Yeah. The chicken balls are really good.
I've had a chicken meatball before.
They're very good. It is a blend of dark and white.
Great.
But they're very good balls.
Yeah.
Yeah. My go-to is the chicken meatballs with pesto sauce. That's my go-to for years. And the veggie balls are also very, very good. I love the veggie balls. All the meatballs are very good. Chicken and veggie are my jams for years. They're like lentil based. There's 14 all real ingredients in them. There's no tempeh thing. No tempeh.
Let's talk about choices. Okay, and I've in my research of you, I've kind of taken some of your concepts that you've talked about, and I feel like I can do my best to distill them down into 3 or 4 different topics that I want to get into. I have this concept, and I teach these leadership programs, and on what I call the 5 components of a performance mindset. So my experiences in special operations, and I've broken them down into character, preparation, choice, action, and communication. Choice to me is a very important part of the discussion, because what I say, and we were talking about Whoop earlier, and I was fortunate to sit down with Kristen Holmes, the VP of Performance Science at Whoop, and she talks about performance as a choice. And there's a second piece of that, which is that I've added, which is your choices also affect your performance. And we have every day, and this is where I want to bring in what you said, what you talk about, and you said that every day starts with an opportunity to make a decision. And it doesn't matter what we're talking about, whether it's food or anything in our life. Can you talk about that concept and why every day when you wake up, you're faced with a choice to make?
Yeah, I believe that I kind of like to paint the picture of, if you're building a building, and it's 2023, April, you have the choice to dig a big hole, pour concrete in, put your underpinning in, put down rebar, make it awesome, firm.
Or your restaurant table.
Or your restaurant table, right? Don't do that, anyone listening here. If you're opening up a restaurant, do not pour the concrete. Don't pour the tables into the concrete. But you have this opportunity, right, to pour a really, really sound foundation and structure so that you can build your building and it's going to stand the test of time. You're not going to worry when it rains about mud and erosion. You are going to build a structure that lasts. Or you can just start building on the dirt, right? You can do that for sure. It's probably going to take less time in the beginning, cost less money, and you can do it. Your structure is going to sink over time. And potentially in a really bad storm, it's going to fall over. And you're going to have to dig the hole and pour the foundation. Every single morning that you wake up, you have to make a decision. Are you going to dig a hole and pour the foundation so then you can ultimately build that awesome foundation and structure for your day to sit upon? Or are you just going to go and build on the mud? Because, we all got mud. And so I like to start my day every single day by pouring a rock solid foundation. And it starts with a really, really kind of like, for me, it's not a drawn out routine because I've been doing it for so long, but I do believe that having a morning routine is the best way to set yourself up for success. And what does success mean to me? How I feel. It's not about how much money I make, because I can't, I'm not in the business where I can make $1 billion in a day. I can't. But I could feel one way or the other. And if I could set myself up, no guarantees, but if I could set myself up with the time that I can control in the choices that I make in that time, which is typically from 4:45 in the morning until 6:15 when my wife and kids get up.
Yeah, it's over after that.
Yeah. I have complete control. It was gone. It's just like lost.
Yeah,
and by the way, like, fine by me, because I have made the sacrifice in my life to actually give myself a strong hour and a half in the morning to just totally indulge in self-love, self-care things that make me a better husband, dad. Really, those are the two most important things I really want to show up for as a good dad and a good husband. But then ultimately as a business partner, a business owner, an employer, a friend, a son, and that those choices that I make from 4:45 to 6:15 in the morning are my life. I believe that. I only get one day guaranteed, right? Like, who the hell knows what happens tomorrow? So if I can just do everything I can in those choices that I make early in the morning, I run a good chance of feeling well throughout the day.
What are some examples of those types of choices what's an example of, like, here's me building a house on mud versus a way that I can pour a foundation today?
Yeah, I think, it really starts from the second I open my eyes. Like, you can open your eyes and smile, which is what I do every morning. I smile for 15 to 30 seconds, like shit-eating grin, pearly white, in bed, looking up at the ceiling, going right into gratitude. And it feels awkward every time I do it. Doesn't feel great, but at the 15-second-ish mark, it feels amazing. And I feel optimistic. And I'm like, dude, you are such a crazy son of a bitch. You are going to win today. Or not do that. Or, be like, oh, God, can I sleep another 5-10 minutes?
That's how I get up at 4:30, 4:45 in the morning. That is the phrase.
Oh, God, can I just, yeah. But for me, it's become, and I will preface by saying that I am an extreme human. There is no doubt. Like, I was extreme in a really bad way for years, and now I'm kind of extreme in a really good way, which is much better. But I like to have that time in the morning. So the first thing I do every single morning is smile, because I know that most humans, including myself, wake up with anxiety. Whether we know it or not, the thought of, like, oh, God, it's time to start working or doing things, anxiety, immediate. I don't want to do it, So, like, let me beat that down. Let me push that down, and, like, not allow that to, like, drag me through my day. I don't want that to be the first emotion. Like, I'm gonna take control. I'm gonna tell my anxiety and fear to, like, leave me alone, and I'm gonna own it. And so that's what I do. And then I bounce out of bed with intention, and I walk downstairs, because my wife is definitely not waking up at 4:45 in the morning. I pound 22 ounces of water right away. And I know that, like, I've probably slept somewhere between 7 and 8 hours, and I'm definitely I definitely took a piss in the middle of the night because I drank water probably way too close to bed. And I'm probably a little dehydrated, even though I don't feel dehydrated. I probably am, because if I walked around here for 8 hours and my body's working all night long, like recovering and all those things, like if I walked around here for 8 hours, I'd be like thirsty. I'd be like, if I didn't have anything to drink. Yeah. So like, boom, first thing, let's cover that too. Like let's like fix that problem, because dehydration also makes us tired. Makes us lethargic, makes us like not stoked to like want to talk to people.
And feels like you're hungry sometimes.
Totally.
Like if I'm thirsty, I think I'm hungry.
Right. So I just pound it with, I use an electrolyte. It tastes delicious. I pound it. Then I walk into the bathroom and I brush my teeth. I floss my teeth. I wash my face. And I was competing in bodybuilding for years, so I would typically step on the scale first thing in the morning. Thank God I don't do that anymore, because that was not fun. But if I'm competing for something where I have to be at a certain weight, I will do that. And then I have a prayer practice, and I pray every morning. And so I have a prayer practice that I've been saying for many years. I pray for like 3 to 5 minutes, and then I do push-ups. I do 50 push-ups every morning, and then I mean, it's I know this sounds long, but it does go by pretty quickly. I sit and I do breath work in front of a red light panel. And then I go into a sauna that I have, and I meditate and I read, and then I go into the cold plunge, and then I got a few more things that I do that are small, and then I walk into my kitchen, and my wife and kids are typically either just getting up or will get up any second, and it's like I have zero interest in myself. I'm all focused on them, and that's how I start my day.
And that's like an hour
and 15 minutes. Yeah.
Do you have any variation in like if you have a day where you have the whole day off versus a day where you have to be extra early?
Yes. So I give myself flexibility. So like that, what I just walked you guys through is typically if I'm home Monday through Friday. Saturday and Sunday, I do what the hell I want. If I want to wake up early, I wake up early.
Do you still do the same length routine?
No. Sometimes if I choose to sleep in a little bit, which I tend to do whenever the hell I want.
Till 5.
No, but I'll sleep like on a Saturday or Sunday. I'll sleep till 6. And I always try to get up a little bit earlier than the kids and the wife, so I can get my prayers done and my push-ups and those. I've got non-negotiable things that I do, like when I'm traveling, right? Like I don't do any of the red light, sauna, cold plunge, sometimes, meditation rarely when I'm traveling, it's just not part of it. If I can get to it, I do. But typically for me, it's brush my teeth, floss my teeth, wash my face, prayers, push-ups. And that's like, okay, I got some stuff done.
No matter what,
non-negotiable. And then of course, movement. I mean, no matter where I am on the planet, I am training. Unless it's an off day, which I tend to take 1 or 2 days a week. But other than that, movement is always part of my day, no matter what.
Let me give you the second one. Work hard or not work hard. It's the next choice that you have.
I mean, work hard.
Always.
Yeah, I like to work hard. But I will say that there's a difference between working hard and working smart.
Yeah.
Right? Like I used to think working hard was 16 hours a day early in my career. I do not work 16 hours a day anymore, like unless it's absolutely necessary. I work 7-8 hours a day, really fucking hard though, and get a ton of work done, and surrounded myself with a lot of really smart people that took a lot of work to hire and find and cultivate and build. And now I used to be like weird about it too, like, oh man, I'm only working from 10 to 5.
I get that feeling.
I'm like, is that like I mean, should I even say that out loud?
Am I still me?
And then I'm like, actually, dude, you earned that, man. Like, you should be proud of that, Like, and it's not that you earned it because you spent so many years working, 18 hours a day, but you learned the hard way. And now you realize that, like, it's actually much better to ask for help, than to just try to do it all by yourself.
Yeah. The third one I have here for you is you get out what you put in. Talk about that concept. Why is that so important?
I believe that Well, I guess I'll use the example of CrossFit.
Excellent.
Right?
I heard you recently met the CEO.
Yes, it's a very, very, very funny story. But I've recently just started doing CrossFit about 8 months ago, and there's so many levels to the sport, right? Like most people that do CrossFit go to a CrossFit gym, show up at whatever 8 o'clock in the morning, do some sort of a strength piece and a Metcon. The Metcon could be 7 minutes or it could be 20 minutes. Rarely is it longer than 20. And you cool down, and that's it. And you're going to be in great shape if you do that. And if you eat well and you do that, you will be in great shape. They're designed for quick, fast, like good fitness. However, if you want to like do CrossFit for real, it's like a 5-piece workout. Yeah. There's like a strength piece, there's a skill piece, there's a Metcon, there's an AMRAP, and there's an accessory thing. And so I didn't know that until I started training with some like elite CrossFit athletes, and I'd show up and I'd be like, all right, like, what are we doing? And they'd be like, we're doing boom, 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 boom. And I was like, today?
That's for the week, right?
Yeah. And so I guess the idea is, you can, if there's like an imam, which means every minute on the minute, 7 toe to bars and, 15 chest to bars, whatever, something like that, you can do 2 toe to bars and 2 chest to bars and not give it everything you've got and try to get it all done and be okay. But if you put it all out there, you are going to feel and get more out of the workout than if you didn't, right? And so that's where I kind of learned that, like in CrossFit specifically, you can go at your own pace and you probably still be okay. But if you really want to excel in the sport, you can put every ounce of energy into it and get really good, And so I feel like you get out what you put in is, it's obvious. You can go to school and fall asleep at the table, fall asleep at your desk and not get shit out of it. Or you can pay attention and do the work and get a ton out of it. You can get a job and do the bare minimum and probably get fired in the first wave of layoffs. Or be the first person to show up, offer help before being asked for, help, and excel. I mean, I think the one thing I'll say is like being a business owner for the last 15 years is you can tell the people that want to get as much out of it as possible immediately as an owner, yeah. Or as a manager, or as any kind of leader, and it's not the ones that like want all the attention for showing up early and making everybody know that they've shown up early.
I was here.
Yeah.
I already had 2 coffees.
It's the ones that really are doing the work, and really, I like to call them the silent assassins. The ones that are just like, they ask the right questions. They're like, just somehow, some way, always there, in the right time, and they don't require an enormous amount of attention.
The last one of these is this concept of that you really can do anything you put your mind to. And I'll quantify that in a couple of different ways. One, I had the opportunity to sit down with Nick Lavery, and just wrote Objective Secure, first above-the-knee amputee to return to duty to a Special Forces team. And he talks about this mindset about do whatever it takes. And then also Jessie just gave her fit talk on resiliency and coming back from injury, and the very first thing that she said when she got up was, I'm excellent at recovering from injuries and bouncing back. And all of these points here, I think, are summed up so well, by her. And I want to ask you, to kind of expand on this, because as you've gone through your injuries, as you've gone through your training, you've had to apply this concept and put it in your mind that I'm gonna get back.
Yeah. And
there's no question that it's going to happen. Now, the other 3 points we talked about have to be now put into action.
Actually, my question for you as you were just talking relates to that, because my instinct initially was you give 110% all the time. And then I got injured all the time. So how do you find that balance of putting it all out there, getting the most out of the experience that you possibly can, but where do you know the line of like the most productive thing for me right now, or for the whole business in general, is to pace myself a little bit more? Or do you just have endless endurance and you just do everything?
I mean, I think it's a great question. Something that I have learned to embrace in business and in sport is pain is part of the picture. Mm-hmm. It's just part of it. Not only pain like in the journey of finishing the race, finishing the fight in the ring, whatever it is, but like pain is always part of it, and setbacks too. So I'm not sitting here saying that you should go until you get injured, but there's so much learning in the recovery process. And if you don't push hard, chances are you're not going to get injured, and then you're not going to experience the beauty of the pain that comes with recovering from an injury. Because I think that you learn so much in the failures. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't call injury a failure. However, it is an opportunity to be like, wait a second, like, this sucks. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be doing this. I don't want to be out. But I also want to get better at being out. And I've had to really teach myself that. Mm-hmm. Because I've suffered a lot of injuries in sport and in business, both. And I'm like, this hurts really bad. And I really believe, though, that I've made it my mission to learn to love the hard and the hurt. Mm-hmm. Because if I can learn to actually love the hard and the hurt, which is part of the story, it's part of the journey, it's part of the whole entire thing. If you're trying to be elite and the top of your game and you want to win, which all humans want, it's not all about winning, but all humans want to win, right? Mm-hmm. We just do. We want to win. It feels good to win. And that's why I've set up all those little things in the morning, because they're all little wins for me every single day. I think if you want to be elite, you're going to get hurt. You are. And you could be smart about it, and you could surround yourself with great people to be like, hey, chill. Like, mm-hmm. chill, dude. I've surrounded myself with people that are so much smarter than me, to be like, yo, Chernow, you're doing 60 and a 20, and there's a big speed bump, dude. Like, you need to fucking slow down, man. And I have, and because I've put in a lot of hard work, and I've been injured a lot, and I've had a lot of failure, I have now been, I've earned the seat to be like, you're right. Or, we're hitting that fucking speed bump, dude, and we're not slowing down. We're going to actually pedal to the metal this thing, and we're all going for the ride. I'm going to take the full accountability for the damage. Yeah. So just like, as long as your seatbelt's buckled, you're good. Trust me, I'm not going to kill anybody, know? But like, I think that is kind of it. And I guess I would just also add to that, like, there's only one thing we got to do well. Only one thing. Honestly, in my opinion. And that's get back up. It's the only thing. It's it. Like, most people don't get back up. You know what I mean? And I do believe that the commitment to the mindset of get back up is what separates the good from the great. Because most people will stay down. And the only time failure actually comes to fruition, in my experience, is when you're like, throw in the towel. But they could be like 8, 9, and you're like, no, you're back in the fight. That's it. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're like, what are they going to do? You're back up. You're on your feet. They're looking at you in the eye, and you're like, no, I'm ready. Mm-hmm. Even though you're beat down, you just got knocked out. You somehow made it back up. That's it. And so, I don't know. Probably get shit for saying that, right? Saying, like, I'll get shit for saying it. But I do believe that it's,
It is part of it, for sure.
It's part of it.
I think the challenge for me has been learning, when do I go pedal to the metal and accept that, if I overreach and make this grab on this obstacle, I'm probably going to tear my supraspinatus. But this is the one that's going to change my life, so I'm doing it anyway. Mm-hmm. Versus I'm in my living room at 8 p.m. and I want to do 43 pull-ups instead of 42 pull-ups, so I'm going to go extra hard and pull my super spinatus doing one extra rep in my living room so I can,
Totally, and
so
that,
knowing
yes.
this is not the time. This is
Right,
where
well,
we tone it down.
That's like the work hard,
Yeah.
work smart vibe, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's where I think that comes in. Like for me, today I worked out with a guy who was basically should be in the games this year, right? Like he is an unbelievable athlete, and I'm trying to keep up with him. And I threw my back out doing deadlifts on Thursday last week. So I took all Thursday, I took Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I took basically all week off. Didn't do anything outside of some strength stuff. And
Good
then
work on that discipline.
Thank you. That was not easy for me.
No, that's
It was
hard.
really hard for me, but I did that. And I went in there with him today. And the workout we did yesterday was actually, it was hard, but it was okay for me. The workout today was all midline. It was all like toes to bars. And we did Murph without the run. And I just started feeling my back go. And it was like right on my upper glute on the left side. And I looked at him and I was like, dude, like in my mind, I was like, no fucking way, you're finishing this shit. And then I was like, you know what, man?
Be smart.
Tomorrow's another day.
Yeah.
Like, imagine you do a GHD, you finish that last set of 25, and you're out for another week. Like, come on, man. And honestly, like, there would be days where I would just say, you know what, no, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And today I didn't. And so I'm getting better. You
Yeah.
know, I am. I'm getting better. I'm growing.
So I guess it's in that moment, taking a second to think about, is this extra rep going to change my life for the better? Or am I going to have more benefit by skipping this one and feeling okay tomorrow so I can do another workout?
100%. Yes.
Yeah.
It's hard I think that is the dilemma for hard charging humans.
Yeah. I found for me it was so much easier to just assume that the voice saying to stop was always wrong and to always push through it. And I know for a lot of people it's more just trusting the careful voice that says, oh, you should stop, this hurts, you're tired. And the hard part is finding that place in between where you don't default to always stop or always go. You have to actually think. And once you're thinking, for me, then I might have a lazy voice saying, this is uncomfortable, you should stop now.
Yeah.
And I have to think really hard, is that a lazy voice or is that like a muscle about to strain? And thinking is hard, but that's the working smarter.
I think
part.
it's like there's so many different ways you can look at that conversation with yourself, right? Like if it's a Friday, or let's say Saturday, and you're like hanging out with friends Saturday morning, whatever. You didn't make it to the gym. You wanted to go to the gym, but you were like, yeah, I'm gonna hang out with my friends and I'll go to the gym later on. And then you start feeling a little tired Saturday afternoon, and you're like, and you're having that conversation. Am I gonna go? Am I gonna go? Nah, I'm not gonna go. That's when you need to turn the volume up and be like, actually, I'm gonna go. Like that's where I would say you need to not listen to the voice, right?
I have a goofy question. How big are the meatballs? I just realized I'm picturing them as like baseball size.
They're golf ball.
Okay, so normal meatball size.
Normal meatballs,
I'm
ounce
not
and a
sure
half.
why.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want to finish your thought?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
no.
let's
So
do
I was
that.
just gonna say that
We're gonna add that earlier. They're adding that question earlier.
she was like,
I meant,
bigger
I
those
meant
balls.
to ask while the batteries were getting replaced because I was like, I don't want this to sound wrong, but I'm kind of curious.
About the size of the meatballs. No, another thing that was like really life-changing for me in that kind of genre was I was coming home from work about a year and change ago, and I was not coming. I was physically home, but I wasn't emotionally home from work. And I walked into my house, and I still was working into my on my phone, and I walked right into the kitchen, and I passed everybody because I was like deep in whatever reading an email, and my son was like, Dad, and I like was frustrated. I still had that intense work energy, and I looked at him and I was like, dude, do me a favor, please. Don't you see that I'm doing something? And I caught myself, and I saw literally like in a minute, for like a second, I like kind of saw myself looking at my phone and telling my son to leave me alone. And like, I literally had a nervous breakdown that actually had just happened. And from that day on, my phone has been in airplane mode the second I walk into the house. But that's another time when you can say, okay, like, is this freaking email going to be worth making my 8-year-old son, who wants nothing more in life, nothing, doesn't care about the phone, the cars, the house, the money, the restaurants, the business, the nothing, wants nothing more than my attention. Am I gonna sound like, is it okay if I just shut off the emails for my awesome, amazing child? You know? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, those are the hardest moments. We have those at my house too, and I fall into the same thing, and you know, you get scolded by everybody. I mean, with a 13-year-old daughter, she's the first one to be like, "Dad, Adrian's talking to you, and you're not paying attention to me."
By the way, though, I'm telling you the truth. From that day, I have never had my phone on from 6 o'clock till 8:30 at night.
Yeah.
I will not do it. I'm like, that scared me so much because I had such a tough relationship with my dad, and it was all because he gave zero fucks and no attention, and the attention that he did give was exactly, well, not exactly, it was a lot worse than me telling my son to leave me alone while I'm finishing an email, but it was terrible attention, and so it was just horrible. And so I caught myself like prioritizing an email, probably an irrelevant email that could, like, tomorrow it would, if I never responded to it ever, it wouldn't matter, you know. And I'm like taking the time over my son, you know. Yeah. So.
And one more thing to ask you about relationships and the importance of relationships, because relationships build trust. We live in a world now where we've become so transactional. You know, and I'll take even this podcast as an example. You know, the first year, everything was Zoom. You know, and part of that was, you know, a bit of COVID, but you know, it was like, oh, you start a podcast, you do it remote. We got fireworks here in the background now. See. That's because my point is about to be so amazing,
so powerful.
and then you realize you do a couple in person, and you're like, oh man, like this is, now we're like actually building relationships. You get to know somebody, you know, you get to hang out with them, you learn more about their life, you have a deeper conversation. And now we do everything in person because it's changed the whole game. It's changed the whole way that we interact. When you think about building companies, being an entrepreneur, having a restaurant, you know, hospitality isn't about looking at somebody on the other side of a screen. It's about creating a moment when somebody comes into your restaurant that has an emotional effect on them that then creates that trust between you and them. Same thing for building teams. That's why we talk about character. You've talked a lot about different components of character, because what does character do? What does working out together do? It builds trust. It builds bonds. Talk about the importance of building trust and relationships in your businesses. And as you look at your teams and you assess the people that you bring in, how are you evaluating that?
I mean, you just like struck a chord for me, because for years and years, I've always said the business of business is relationships, and the foundation of relationships is trust. It's just that simple. And you can try to run your business on a spreadsheet and like think that that's going to generate growth and awesome trajectory, and because it just says it on paper with numbers that all kind of add up to like a number that you think looks good. But the truth of the matter is that like people gotta like you. You know what I mean? Like, it's like for them to keep on wanting to come back for more and more and more. And I'm not only talking about restaurants, I'm talking about it in general. Like, people have to like you. And that could be a product, that could be a service, that could be a restaurant, that could be a relationship, you know, intimate, whatever, friendship. They got to like you. And so in my opinion, the business of business is relationships. So I've spent my life developing the skills of connecting and engaging and meeting people and remembering their names, you know. And I learned a lot of that stuff in the world of hospitality, you know. But I really do, I think relationship development should be at the top of every business person's list. And there's a study, a Harvard study, I forgot what it's called, but it's like one of the longest lasting human studies, if not the longest human study ever. It started in 1938 out of Harvard. They took 350 Harvard male sophomores and 350 same age males from the streets of South Boston. And so there was 700 men involved in the study, and they surveyed them, and they asked them all these questions about their life and what stresses them out and what makes them happy. And this study is still going on to this day. It's been passed down from generation to generation. Some of the original guys are still actually alive, and what they've essentially learned from this process was that there's only one thing that consistently draws to happiness in life based on this study, and that is the quality, not the quantity, but the quality of your personal relationships. Period. Doesn't matter how much money you've made, doesn't matter how well you've done in business, doesn't matter how much family you have. It's the quality of your personal relationships. And the opposite of that, loneliness, is actually like worse than cigarettes, and it's like worse than cigarettes and like fried food for all cause mortality, loneliness.
Wow.
So I think relationships, if they're good for human happiness, they're also probably really, really good for business happiness. And I really do believe that, my job, I'm not a book smart guy. I'm not. I didn't go to Harvard. I didn't go, I'm not one of these guys, that's going to recite like, Nietzsche. I'm not. I like to listen to books. You know what I mean? Like I do. I force myself to read 10 pages a day because it's like I don't enjoy doing it. But like put me in Skid Row or at the White House, and I promise you, I am walking away with friends. And I think that that's a skill set that everybody should think about.
That's a huge skill set. Do you have any recommendations for like a practice or an exercise that someone could do to get started developing that skill?
Totally. I have two. One is try to meet people in real life as often as possible. So, you can go to an event, and you can, if you're there alone, I would highly recommend trying this alone. Go to an event alone. And don't walk in and pull out your cell phone and stand in the corner and pretend like you've got shit to do.
I'm super busy over here.
Yeah, like don't do that. That is like the go-to, right? You walk in, you look around, you feel like I don't know anyone. I'm kind of uncomfortable. Boom, there it is. I figured out my night. Go talk to 10 people. See how awesome that advice is?
Your point was so much better than my points because you got the grand finale.
Let's go!
Talk to 10 people and count them.
Yeah.
Count them. And it doesn't mean that you have to make friends with everybody, but it's a great way to sharpen the knife, right? Another thing that I'll say, which is, probably a little bit more practical for people today, because a lot of people are stuck in social media. Social media is a real thing. I'm not one of these people that says, oh my God, it's the devil. I'm one of these people that say, use it, don't consume it. So what I do on social media is actually, I don't scroll through social media anymore. I'm a culprit of it. I have done it definitely. However, I've made a decision where I use social media for what it was built on. I do it an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening. It's part of my business. I have to be on social media. And I DM anyone who I feel like DMing. I have a list of people that I follow, and then I go into their followers and I scroll down and I say, hey, my name is Mike Chernow. I'm just trying to connect with some awesome people out here. I'm using social media for what it's built for. I think you're dope and I'd love to connect. I'm just reaching out, and I do that. And so I actually have developed some awesome relationships that way, and I'm actually like socializing with people on social media and connecting with people on social media, not disconnecting and fucking hating myself. You know what I'm saying? And comparing myself to every single person that I see that looks better than me, which a lot of us do, even though we don't think we're doing it. So
but that's one of your ways of surrounding yourself with people that you can chase and learn and grow from.
That's right. So like if they're, like I've connected with some of like the top CrossFit athletes. all of them. I've DM'd them all, and I'm like, hey, like, I'm just trying. I'm new at CrossFit. I'm a business owner. I've just created this cool new company, and I think you're awesome. Can we connect? And then they all get back to me. And I'm like, yes, this is great. Like, you know, I'm like hanging out with these people now. It's awesome. So I would say, yes, that's a great way to do it. If you're in social media and it's hard for you to get to an event or, you know, whatever. But those two ways, I would say, you know, walk into a bar or any kind of event and try to talk to 10 people. Don't pull out your cell phone. It should be a cell phone free night for you. Alone. See what happens. Try to communicate and, you know, do it.
Well, we've closed down Sandlot Jack's for the second night in a row. It's pitch black out here, so I'm putting pride on this.
Yeah.
So I'm telling Jason McCarthy this tomorrow that, you know, he left early. So I'll tell him if it were my event, I'd say to the last person.
We're just shutting it down.
But, you know, it's not.
He's working smart. He's working smart.
He's working smart. Absolutely.
He's got a
He's
crew.
gonna be ready for tomorrow morning.
Michael, as we close out, the Jedburghs in World War II had to do 3 things to be successful every day. You can call them habits, call them foundations. They had to be able to shoot, they had to be able to move, and they had to be able to communicate. If these were their core tasks and they were proficient at them, then they could focus their attention on more complex challenges that came their way, namely defeating the German army. You've talked a lot about your habits. You've talked a lot about your routine. But I'm going to ask you to kind of sum it up in 3 things that you do every day to set the conditions for your success. You talked about your routine, but let's put it at a macro scale.
I mean, I gotta say, I think I know what they are for me, and it's gonna sound cheesy.
Excellent.
But
Doesn't matter
you know,
because they're
Do it.
yours, and that's what matters.
and these things really, I think, at the end of the day, are everything. From my experience in life. Love, be loved, and move your ass. And that's really it. Like, love people, love yourself, be able to receive love back from people, because that's also hard. Like, when someone says you're awesome, be like, thank you. Not, oh no, please, come on.
You're
be like,
awesome,
oh
man.
no, yeah. Be like, oh, thank you. That makes me so, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So love, be loved, and move. Movement's medicine. Movement saved my life. It just saved my life. And it can say, I personally believe that movement is the answer for
So many things.
so many things. Like I know there are real, mental health is a real thing. People really struggle with mental health. I know I have family that has, like, you know, however, if you have mental health issues and go for a run or a walk, you will feel better with mental health issues than not, right?
Endorphins are powerful.
Right. So love, be loved, and move your ass.
I love it.
I love those 3. those are going to the top of the list.
Yeah.
So simple too.
Yeah.
Super simple.
Catchy.
Yeah.
Love, be loved.
We covered a lot. I really love what you're talking about trust and relationships, and I sincerely mean what I said at the start of this thing. I do really appreciate you coming back here, being a person of your word, because that builds trust. And I hope today, I know that I feel like we built a relationship here. You're only down the street from me. And we're going to have some meatballs.
Oh yes,
So-
it might be some pulled pork and brisket at my house on a green egg.
All right.
On a Saturday afternoon.
I
but
love that too.
Yeah, sweet. Thank you guys for having me. This was so much fun.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for coming and
course.
staying.
Awesome, guys.
American Jedburghs went out to form the foundation of the United States Special Forces and the Special Activities Directorate of the Central Intelligence Agency. Thanks for listening to the Jedburgh Podcast. I'm your creator and host, Fran Racioppi. Join us next week for a new episode on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on YouTube for full episodes, highlights, and other behind-the-scenes content. If you like what you heard, give us a like and leave a review. Follow me, Fran Racioppi, Talent War Group, and our sponsor Jersey Mike Subs on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. Send your comments and inquiries to media@talentwargroup.com. As a former member of Special Forces, the Jedburgh Podcast donates a percentage of all proceeds to the Green Beret Foundation, supporting America's Special Forces and their families. Thanks for joining us on this episode. How How you prepare today determines success tomorrow.